What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from Unsleeved Media, and part of my pre-release prep really surrounds this, well, the removal spells. Knowing what to look for and being able to quickly analyze your sealed pool for premium removal and mid-tier level removal spells will really save you time in terms of deck building, but it will also prepare you for what you might see out of opponents. So if you have a good idea what spells are in each particular color, you can sort of play around them. Like, you shouldn't play scared, and you shouldn't play around stuff that you haven't seen, and you really shouldn't play around rare level removal unless you've already seen it. But I think it's worthwhile to go through a good chunk of the removal, counter spells, and bounce spells. Now, this isn't a complete list, but this is a pretty good list. And so we've got a Braid here. 2 mana, choose one. Deals 3 damage to target creature or destroy target artifact. Now, more often than not, this is going to be used to blow up a 3 toughness creature, but you can also use it to get rid of a lot of the annoying, like Edifice and other annoying artifacts that you need to get rid of, or any one of the new artifacts in Hour of Devastation that you might be having trouble with. So this is definitely an auto-include in any red deck. I'd even argue that it's sort of splashable if you're in a color that makes it easy. Then we have Ambuscade. This is, again, green is always really light on the removal. This is kind of as good as it gets for green. It's a 3 mana instant that target creature you control gets +1/+0 till end of turn. It also deals damage equal to its power to target creature and opponent controls. This is a great kind of spell to hold up and 2-for-1 somebody, as opposed, or to clear the way in for an alpha strike. And this is at common, so could you see a couple of them in your seal pool? Probably. Then we have Blur of Blades. These are in no particular order. A 2 mana instant that allows you to put a -1/-1 counter on target creature, and then also deals 2 damage to that creature's controller. So it's like kill a 1 toughness creature, shock someone to the dome, or you can weaken something, win a trade. This seems like a great early removal spell. Then we have, of course, at rare, Bantu's Last Reckoning. This doesn't really... I don't want to spend a lot of time on rare or mythic level removal. I mean, destroy all creatures. Lands you control don't untap during your next untap step. Now, this is a common of the last cycle, common theme. So you basically trade your next turn. But with Bantu's Last Reckoning, maybe you're casting this on, like, turn 10 and wiping the board, and you still have 7 mana to jump out ahead. So this card is very strong. Chandra's Defeat, a single red mana for an instant that deals 5 damage to target red creature or red planeswalker. If the permanent is a Chandra planeswalker, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. So this is sideboard removal only that you bring in if you are playing red, you play it against red. You wouldn't main deck this because against a lot of decks, it's just a dead card. Then we have Chaos Maw. I threw this in there just because it's a creature, and like Amonkhet has Manticore, and I think that's kind of an important creature to look out for because a lot of times people use it as a finisher to where it deals 3 damage to target opponent. Here is 7 mana, but when it enters a battlefield, it deals 3 damage to every other creature. This is a potential board wipe. It's very, very strong. It's something, while at rare, I just thought it was worth mentioning in here. Then we have Consign to Oblivion, a 2 mana blue spell. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, but the Oblivion side says target opponent discards 2 cards. So if you cast this in the same turn, like on turn 7, where you could... it could be pretty spicy. I mean, they're only going to have 1, maybe 2 cards in hand, maybe none. So you can bounce it and then make them discard it. You can use it early as a bounce spell with Consign. I think this is definitely a pretty good card. Then we have Countervailing Winds. This is a 3 mana counter target spell unless controlled plays 1 for each card in your graveyard. But because it has cycling, I don't hate including it in most decks. Now, early game... you know, maybe you have 1 card or 2 cards in your graveyard, so it's like a pay 2 or pay 3. Late game, it's maybe more powerful. But again, you can always cycle it. So it gets a little bit better that way. Dejure's Renunciation, the 2 mana, simple tap down spell. Tap up to 2 creatures, but you can also cycle it. So you cast this at their end step, and then you slide in for Alpha Strike, maybe. Doomfall is a 3 mana sorcery. Target opponent, you choose one. They exile a creature he or she controls, or they reveal his or her hand. You choose a non-land card from it, exile that card instead. Very strong. Very, very strong, in my opinion. Being able to take their bomb out of their hand, or if they have a giant hexproof creature if they only have one creature on the board, it's basically a removal spell. It can be either or. This is a great card. Then we have Farm to Market. Destroy target attacking or blocking creature, simple. But then market, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. So this is I would say premium level removal in white, given that you get to draw cards if you happen to be in like white, blue Embalm or white, blue Flyers. Fervent Paincasters is a 3 mana 3/1, but I included it just because you can tap it down to deal 1 damage to target player. In a lot of ways, it's like Lobber Crew was, even though Lobber Crew is an 03 that you could block, or an 04 and ping. This card is relevant in a board stall where you can still ping the opponent, or you can ping a creature in a board stall scenario. Gideon's Defeat, single white mana. Again, only sideboard card, but you want to keep aware of it. One thing that people forget to do all the time in pre-release is take a minute to sideboard. Always have a sideboard plan, and these cards just make sideboarding easy. You're like, oh, I'm playing someone as white. This is an auto-include. Even my dog agrees it's auto-include. So exile target creature that's attacking. If it's a Gideon, you gain 5 life. You're not going to face that often in pre-release because, you know, you don't see a lot of planeswalkers in pre-release. I mean, you do, but you don't play around planeswalkers. You go crazy, right? Then we have Grind to Dust, a 2 mana. Put a -1/-1/1 counter on up to 2 target creatures. So Grind is even better than the 3 mana 2 -1/-1 counter spells that we have now. That's very playable. The only drawback is its sorcery speed. So you're trading sorcery speed for 1 less mana. But I still think it's very good. And Dust, exile any number of target creatures with -1/-1 counters on them. So let's say you're playing blue-black and they have a couple of creatures with -1/-1 counters on them. It's turn 6, you drop 2 more, and then you blow away 4 creatures. You like end up 4-for-1ing them, or 3-for-1ing them. Or at worst, you're 2-for-1ing them if they have at least 2 creatures. So Grind to Dust is very good. Like it a lot. Then we have some of the crazy bananas, you know, Hour of Devastation. Okay, fine. All creatures lose indestructible end of turn. Hour of Devastation deals 5 damage to each creature and each non-bolus planeswalker. This is an important card to just kind of know about. It kills gods, which is super important. But again, it's rare level removal, so, I mean, you don't count on it. Then you have Hour of Glory, some of my favorite art here. This is a 4 mana instant speed, exile target creature. If that creature was a god, it's you say yes. Anyway, obscure Ghostbusters reference for you old guys. Its controller reveals his or her hand and exiles all cards. So maybe if gods are a thing in Constructed, this would be a real hoser. It's still definitely auto-include removal, and it does answer the problem right now. Like when you face down someone with Aronis, it's like really annoying. There's only one way. Now this is rare level, so again, you can't count on getting multiples, but it's definitely premium level that you would save for their biggest, most dastardly creature. Then you have Hour of Revelation, 3 and 3 white. However, it costs 3 colorless less if there are 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield. So this card in particular would be, and while at rare, would be an absolute hoser in a late game sealed event. Destroy all non-land permanents. So, I mean, turn 6, if you're playing white and you're deep white and you have 3 planes out, you could hard cast it. I don't see you splashing this card. I mean, maybe in like a 3-color deck you do, if one of the 3 colors is also white and you have all sorts of other stuff going on. Then you have Imminent Doom. This is a 3 mana enchantment. However, when it enters the battlefield, with a Doom counter on it, like MF Doom. When you cast a spell with converted mana cost equal to the number of Doom counters on it, Imminent Doom deals that much damage to target creature or player. then put a Doom counter on it. So it's interesting. So when it comes into play, it has 1 Doom counter. But then you need to cast spells that have like, you need a 1 mana spell, really, to get Imminent Doom going. Otherwise, it just sits there with 1, right? Unless you have another way to put additional counters on Imminent Doom, this could be a dead card. So be careful about auto-including this. Then you have Inferno Jet, 6 mana, deals 6 damage to target opponent, also has cycling. Totally fine. And it's important to note that it's to opponent, not to creature. So very strong if you're in some sort of, there seems to be a lot of red creatures that can deal direct damage. So at least in limited, you can do a decent amount of burn damage, and it's something that they're going to have to play around. Then you have Lethal Sting, a 3 mana sorcery. There's additional cost to Lethal Sting. Put a -1/-1 counter on target creature you control, but you get to destroy a creature. So this is a great removal spell in like green-black tokens. It's a fine removal spell in anything that plays black. If you're trading up, like you put a -1/-1 on a meaningless creature and you blow up their biggest creature, I still think it's definitely playable. If you can get rid of that counter later on, sure, that's great. And we have Liliana's Defeat. Same thing. Black creature, sideboard. Nissa's Defeat. Same thing. Green, sideboard. Open Fire, 3 mana. You hear a Colt at the top of the stairs up there. 3 mana, Open Fire deals 3 damage to target creature or player. Now imagine drafting 2 or 3 of these. And then you have, you know, Inferno Jet. Now you're dealing, you know, you got 12 damage and direct damage, and Inferno Jet's an uncommon, but Open Fire is a common. So, I mean, you can really get some fun stuff going with these burn spells. Then your Overwhelming Splendor, an 8 mana enchantment. Now this is bananas too. Creatures enchanter player controls lose all abilities and base power and toughness of 1/1. Enchanted player can't activate abilities that aren't mana abilities or loyalty abilities. So you basically lose if you can't get rid of this thing. That's why it's a mythic. Then we have Puncturing Blow, a 4 mana. Deals 5 damage to target creature. If the creature would die this turn, exile instead. It's important on creatures that have Embalm or that have Recursion or have graveyard abilities to save this kind of removal spell for something that needs to get exiled. Then we have Refuse to Cooperate. This, again, interesting 4 mana spell. Refuse deals damage to target spell's controller equal to that spell's converted mana cost. So it's like a counter burn spell. Interesting thing. And then we have Cooperate. Copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for it. So if you cast this late game, it could be an absolute blowout. If they cast something that's like 6 or 7 mana, you're blasting them, and then you're also copying it, and maybe you're hitting them double time. Very, very strong. Struggle to Survive. This is a 3 mana instant where it deals damage to target creature equal to the number of lands you control. Great. Solid removal spell. Late game, you're blowing up just about anything. Early game, you can remove something. And you can also do it in response, which is very powerful. And you have Survive. Each player shuffles his or her graveyard into their library. Supreme Will, 2 and a blue. This one allows you to choose one. Counter target spell unless it pays 3. Very playable. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom. Also very playable. So this is a very, you know, auto include. I don't know. I mean, I feel like you would play multiple of these if you had them. Torment of Hailfire. X and 2 black. Repeat the following process X times. Each player loses 3 life unless that player sacrifices the non-land permanent or discards a card. So double black, and let's say it's 5. So you cast it for 7 mana. Right now they're facing down. If they have no cards in hand and no creatures, they're dead, probably. If they have 3 creatures and 3 cards in hand, they've got to discard their entire hand, discard all their creatures, and they're still taking 3 life. It is absolutely very powerful. I could see this card just winning, flat out winning games in pre-release. Of course, it is, you know, ultra rare, but it's still nonetheless. Torment of Scarabs, a 4 mana enchant player. At the beginning of a player's upkeep, that player loses 3 life unless he or she sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card. This is very powerful at 4 mana, in my opinion. As an uncommon, the fact that it's 3 life and not 2 changes a lot. I mean, if you're playing a red-black deck where you have a couple of burn spells and you have this, you could really get in on somebody and really just kind of ignore everything they're doing. We have Torrent of Venom, a 4 mana. put 3 -1/-1 counters on target creature, its controller also loses 3 life unless he or she sacrifices another non-land permanent or discards a card. And this is at common. It seems really powerful for a common spell, right? You kill something with 3 toughness, then they have to discard another card or sacrifice a creature or lose 3 life for 4 mana at instant speed. Unsummon, return target creature to its owner's hand. Great, you want to save this for 2-for-1 opportunities, to bounce a, if they have a pump spell, to protect your creature, all sorts of things. Very playable. Now, I went through a lot in this video, and Colt's crying his little heart out, so I've got to let him upstairs. But this is a lot of removal. Hopefully this video, maybe watch this video twice, watch it once in regular speed, once in 1.5, and then you'll have a pretty good idea of what you're facing out there and why recursion and synergies and counterspells are all going to be really important when you build your pre-release deck. Good luck at pre-release. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.